So let me ask you, do you move well, eat well, and sleep well? Do you feel that modern medicine is looking out for your best interest? Do you know how to take care of your body so you can stay pain-free and in the activities you love? Do you know what options you have? If not, that's a problem, and this podcast is the answer. I'm Trevor Folker, and welcome to the Green Bay Health Project podcast. The Green Bay Health Project podcast is sponsored by Movement, Performance, and Rehabilitation, where we help the athletes and active adults move better, perform better, stay pain-free, and in the sports and activities that they love. We do this by focusing on their movements and optimizing their mobility and strength. We believe that your body is your greatest tool, and when you take care of it, you can move better, you feel better, and you thrive. So head to movement-rehab.com, that's mvmt-rehab.com, to learn how we can help you stay active and pain-free. What's going on, everyone? I'm Trevor with the Green Bay Health Project podcast, and today I am joined by Alicia Brown. Alicia is a registered dietitian nutritionist and a non-diet dietitian. That may baffle some people, but before we get into it too much, Alicia, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to talk today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and I'm not sure if people really know what non-diet dietitians do or what intuitive eating is, so I think it's going to be very informative. But first, can you tell us more about your background and your dieting story? Because I think a lot of people will relate to it, but it also shed some light into intuitive eating and why you're so passionate about it.
Oh, yes. I am super passionate about intuitive eating. And thank you so much for having me on the show today, Trevor. We should talk about, what intuitive eating is and how I kind of got brought in to this landscape of being a non-diet dietitian. That sounds crazy, right? You don't hear many non-diet dietitians, but so many of us today, we're following diet after diet after diet, really confused and frustrated about why we can't hold on to a certain diet or dieting modality. And we're falling into the dieting mentality that keeps us feeling like we're a failure in regards to our health. So in today's show, I want to talk about how we can feel successful in our health in regards to nutrition, so we can stop feeling so trapped in the ways that we eat and start finding some freedom by finally listening to our bodies again. So, oh my gosh, I was so disembodied in my own relationship with food for so long, especially when I was a nutrition student. So that's where I'll start. I had a really poor relationship with food, and I really struggled with food as I was studying it in college. I had this thought that in order to be a registered dietitian, I had to eat perfectly. And it was my mission to show everyone in the world that I could eat perfectly and that they could too. What I didn't know at that time is that eating perfect was really harmful, because what I thought was perfect, it was ever changing. All of a sudden, I started cutting out grains, started cutting out meats. I was on a strict vegan diet. I was later diagnosed with celiac disease, so then it's hard to be vegan and gluten-free. All of a sudden, I was only eating a certain amount, a small segment of things that I found to be like my safe foods. Started to find myself withdrawing from social events. My grades were failing in school. I was an A student. My grades started slipping. I started losing friends. I started to isolate myself. As my body got smaller and smaller, I started being disconnected from it. I learned to fear food. I was a nutrition student trying to be healthy, but it was funny at this time that I'm looking back at it right now. It's crazy anyway, not even funny, it was just crazy that in my obsessiveness about food and my fear about food, I had this facade of health. I was trying to show everybody else that I knew exactly how to be healthy. I looked unhealthy. I was unhealthy. I was under-eating, over-exercising in my way to a severe eating disorder. I found myself in my second year of college in eating disorder treatment. I was pulled from college. My parents came and got me, pulled me from college. I'm in the thick of eating disorder treatment, and I had this awakening there that I had to live my life differently. I had to get out of there. And my only way out of eating disorder treatment was to eat. That was the only way that I could leave that treatment facility. But this crazy thing happened, Trevor, when I was in eating disorder treatment. As I began to eat and eat a more variety of foods, I started to feel my feelings again. And I started to be more of myself again. I had energy that I hadn't had in a long time again. And I discovered at the end of that, as I started to really reconnect with myself and my body again, I started to realize that I wanted to still be a dietitian, but that I had to do it differently. That our thought of health, our thought of nutrition right now, it's warped, it's ever changing, and it's wrong. And that our approach to health needs to be different and needs to include all foods. The message of restricting, of eat less, move more, it's not working. And that in the nutrition field, and maybe the health field in some aspects in general, is negating our mental and emotional health and only prizing our physical health by the way that we look. And I discovered myself that actually weight is not correlated with health. When we separate those things and we just think about health and health promoting behaviors, we get ourselves out of the weight loss paradigm and into honoring our bodies with food and beyond. And that is the practice of intuitive eating, is honoring our bodies, respecting our bodies with food. And that's something that I so love in your work, Trevor, is that you work on honoring and in respecting our bodies through movement and movement practices that honor our bodies too. So there's so many parallels between your work in physical therapy and my work in intuitive eating. And what we both don't do is just make blanket recommendations of weight loss and expect for them to just be sustained throughout our life. How many times have we heard from the doctor, oh, just lose weight and your life will be better? You could relieve yourself from certain health ailments and live a healthier life. What I found in my own personal life and in my professional life as well, that when our health is so tethered to weight loss, we lose sight of what aspects of health we're missing out on, especially in regards to our mental and emotional health. So what intuitive eating does is it brings us back to our center, and it helps us ask questions like, what is satisfying to my body right now? What foods give me energy right now? How can I achieve satisfaction in a way that's balanced and incorporates a variety of different foods and doesn't restrict me, but allows me the energy and variety that I need every day through my diet and through how I feel. So that's really how I got to this starting point in intuitive eating, is kind of going through my own poor relationship with food and seeing my clients. The last thing I'll add here, Trevor, too, is that a lot of times when we're in the dieting mentality and we're thinking about foods as good and bad and right and wrong, don't eat this, don't eat that, eat more of this other healthier thing instead. When we get into that black and white mentality, we inevitably fall short of that. And we feel these intense feelings of like guilt and shame and resentment towards ourselves, because if we did something bad and we see foods as good and bad and we ate something that's bad, we think that we're bad as well. Of course we do. There's moral judgment. There's a moral assignment with the food. And when we separate ourselves from that, there's a lot more freedom in this as well. So what I found in my professional life is through my clients practicing intuitive eating, they're feeling more freedom and bliss with food, less judgment, less guilt. That improves their mental health, that keeps them going. Instead of going on this yo-yo dieting journey, they're learning to trust themselves with food. And that is what intuitive eating is all about. Body trust, body respect, and something that we can do actually for the rest of our lives.
That sounds awesome. You touched on so many different things that I want to ask about. I think going back to that, I mean, you were talking about movement and restricting calories, because that's the way that it's kind of just pushed into our heads in order to do that. And you know what I see a lot of is people start to exercise much more than they are, and then they're not refeeding or not replenishing those exercised calories with food because they think that's what is needed in order to achieve whatever goal that they're going for, especially if it's weight loss. And what ends up happening is they restrict the calories so much that they don't end up doing anything good. They don't lose their weight. They're not seeing a lot of changes in the gym. And usually, like you had kind of touched on as well, their mental health state starts to suffer, but also their physical body starts to suffer because they're not replenishing it with what it's asking for. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is just listening to your body and giving it what it is asking for and what it wants.
Absolutely. And let's talk about that further, about like caloric restriction and the effects of that, because there are numerous effects of this. What happens when we don't eat enough? Well, the first thing that happens when we don't eat enough is that we slow our metabolism. When we slow our metabolism by not giving it enough food, enough fuel, our body thinks that we're in starvation mode. When we eat, then we might have a greater tendency, we're more vulnerable to overeating or binging, because our body is predicting that there is another famine coming, that we need to stockpile food because we might have to restrict it again. The body does not know the difference between starvation and restriction. It has no idea. Another thing that happens in regards to movement, Trevor, is that if we don't eat enough food, weight loss aside, what are we doing to our muscle density? We're losing muscle. We're losing bone mass, right? We are losing that lubrication around our joints. We are depleting our body of its resources that it needs to move. So if you're someone that likes to move and you're not eating enough, ultimately you won't have the energy to move, because the food is the energy, and the food is the support that your body needs to be able to move, like literally structural support in muscles and bones and tissues. Your body is more than just the weight that's on it.
100%.
There's so much. Your body is so complex. And so you're like, of course, right? But when we're thinking about weight loss, we get into like this tunnel vision about weight. Like it's only about the weight. But what other things is this food doing for us? So many other things. Skin, hair, joints, nails, all of these things could be great parameters of health, right? Other than just the weight. But I think when our focus is just on the weight, we lose sight of health in so many of these different ways.
Yeah, I tried to tell so many people that not to step on a scale. Like, don't even worry about what that's saying, because that is one numerical like option that I don't really even care about. Like, it doesn't matter to me just because of everything that you just included. Like, weight loss shouldn't be the goal because your body needs it, because of everything that you just said. I got nothing to add to that, but I don't like that people focus so closely on the scale and what's happening there based on like to predict, oh, this is working, this isn't working, I need to eat less, I need to do this more or do this more. And you touched on this topic as well, and it's that tunnel vision of good eating versus bad eating, or I can't have this, and what's going to end up happening. It's like the pink elephant, right? Say don't think of a pink elephant, you're going to think of a pink elephant. If you say I can't eat this food, all you're going to think about is wanting that food. And I think that's what's really interesting about your approach, is because that's not how it should be. And I've fallen victim to that. I mean, I'm like, I'm going to cut out sugar for a month, and I love candy. So when I say I can't have candy, I'm good for 2 weeks, but if I get one hit of that Milky Way bar or Twix, it's game over, and I am going to clear out the cabinets. So it 100% agree on that tunnel vision, and just the word can't. And people, I think words matter. Words matter a lot.
They do.
And so what if somebody comes to you then and says like, I can't eat that, I'm scared to eat that, because I know that's a big part of things as well. How do you approach that?
I'm going to pick out one thing that you just said I think is really powerful, and it's the power of our words, before I kind of get into my approach of like helping navigate this food fear. And it's that like our thoughts form our beliefs, which form our actions, right? And so with this weight loss, we're told like, don't eat the candy, don't eat the candy. But when we don't get into like the nitty gritties of our relationship with this candy, our rebel mind just comes in, right? We are rebellious by nature in this way. Kids are the same way. If you gave them all of the toys and said, don't play with this one, you can play with all these, but not this one. It's the same thing. It happens with kids. We're the same. We're all wired the same. And what's really important about food in this conversation is that we have a reward center in our brain with food. So that reward center in the brain that says food good is really like running in tandem with this other rebel part of our brain too. So it's like we're rewarded by food by being rebellious in the moment, and then later guilt, shame, resentment, we did the bad thing. And so there's a cyclical nature to that. So in your question, you're asking me like, how do I help a client navigate food fear, correct? Like, how do you help them out of this spiral of like, can't have that, what do we do instead? This might sound crazy to everybody. This might sound crazy, but we really have to get to the bottom of the restriction. The only reason we are overeating, the only reason that we are feeling tempted by food is because of this thought of restriction, the thought of we can't, the thought of we shouldn't, the thought of we'd be healthier if we cut it out. We have so many narratives around why a food is not permissible. And again, this might sound crazy, but with intuitive eating, it says we must first allow ourselves permission to eat any and all foods when we are hungry to the point of satisfaction. This is not the hunger fullness diet. I don't want to that'll be another episode. Be back. We can talk about that, but I really want to focus on this permission part first, because this permission centrally is key. For the foods that we don't allow ourselves to have, we're going to want them more. And it might not be initially. People can follow a diet for maybe a month, maybe a year, maybe 3 years. Research is showing that over 95% of diets are not sustained over 5 years. And
wow.
Trevor, you care about your client's health more than 5 years down the road from right now, right?
Completely.
You care about their health for the rest of their life.
Right.
What's lacking right now in nutrition research, and nutrition research is hard. There's a lot of correlation instead of causation.
Yes, completely. Yep.
We often want to think about nutrition as black and white, don't eat this, don't eat that, when the research is very gray. And so we have to live in this gray, and we have to look at the research that we have, which is very minimal. Funding usually drops off after 2 years for most research.
Oh.
And so you might find a lot of dieting research is promoted because they're only saying, okay, it's effective for 2 years. Most research that's 5 years long or more is saying many people are not following the same things. Many people have, quote unquote, fallen off the bandwagon. The good thing is you can't fall off the bandwagon with intuitive eating, because we are continually exploring food and exploring ourselves and our relationship with the food.
Okay.
And so first and foremost, allowing ourselves permission to eat any and all foods. This is where it can be really helpful to have somebody offer a safe container in which you explore food anew. That's why I do the work that I do and helping people kind of navigate their relationship with food, because this is where a lot of food fears come up. Alicia, but I will gain X amount of weight, X amount of pounds if I allow myself permission to eat all foods. Alicia, I can't eat that food. I have told myself that if I eat that food, I'll gain the weight. I won't have the relationship that I want. I won't get the promotion that I want. I won't be attractive to other people. I'll lose my self-esteem. We have all of these conversations around weight in regard to food, and they're all preventing us from actually allowing ourselves the permission that we need to neutralize our relationship with that food. The more that we have a story correlated with the fear that we have about a food, the more vulnerable we are to that food, to maybe overeating or binging or remaining in fear that impacts our mental, emotional, social life.
Right.
And so really breaking free of that. First thing, permission. It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing for clients that I work with to navigate them through. On the other side of allowing permission is the freedom.
Nice. So, I mean, a big thing, it sounds like, is just making peace with food overall. Would you say that that's accurate?
So the peace comes after the permission.
Okay.
After we allow ourselves permission to eat any and all foods, our charge is lifted off of the food. All of a sudden, the French fries are no longer a big deal. The Milky Way bar is no longer a big deal. And all of a
I'm
sudden,
glad you said that.
Like, do I want the Milky Bar? Do I want the bar or not? It's like, after that, we can actually listen to the body. When we have a charged relationship with food, we are unable to remain connected to our body. It's like if I'm not allowing myself, here's an example. If I don't allow myself to eat the chocolate chip cookie, I say, no, I can't eat the cookie. I can't eat the cookie. And all of a sudden, I go someplace where there are cookies available, and they're there, other people are eating them, and I'm in this fight because I want the cookie, but I'm not allowing myself to have it. Do you think if I eat the cookie, I'm actually doing it because I've listen to my body. I'm thinking it's a good idea to eat the cookie. I'm like really going to enjoy this cookie. No, I'm at war with this cookie. I'm having this internal debate whether I should have it or not. And if I eat it, there's no way I'm going to enjoy it because I'm like hating myself the whole time I'm trying to enjoy the thing. After we allow ourselves permission, we can ask ourselves the question, do I want the cookie? Is that cookie going to be the thing that I want right now that's going to be satisfying? How would I like to enjoy the cookie? How much do I want of it? Do I want to finish it? Do I want 2 cookies? We can start to like assess and analyze like, okay, how is the body actually feeling? Is it ready to receive what I'm about to give it?
That's interesting.
It's like, oh, I would eat all of the cookies if they were in front of me. I couldn't control myself, they say, or I couldn't stop myself from eating all the cookies. It's because at that point, we're disconnecting from our bodies and we're letting our mind have it because that rebel complex is so strong and our body is just along for the ride. But once we allow the permission, we connect with ourselves again and it's like, oh, that cookie was so satisfying. I'm so glad I ate that. That was the best ever. That hit the spot.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for when I eat. I don't know if you can agree, Trevor, but it's like, oh, I want the food that hits the spot, you know?
Completely. We ordered some pizza on Friday night and it was, it's one of those things. We woke up Saturday like, oh man, there's nothing different about it, but man, that just is exactly what we wanted or what our bodies were saying we needed for sure. Can completely understand that way of thinking.
That is awesome. That is a satisfying food experience, positive experience with food. And the more positive experiences we build with food, the more our relationship just transforms. Then, oh my gosh, then the pizza becomes no big deal. Then these other foods that we feared become no big deal. How much easier is it to respect our bodies after we allow ourselves this permission? It's like, oh, actually, now eating the pizza, which is something that before maybe I thought was like bad, unhealthy, disregarded, I can see that as something that actually nurtures me in some way. Maybe it's not the salad. I'm a dietitian. I know that there is a difference between eating an apple and eating a pizza. I get it. But we negate satisfaction. And that is something that I think we need as humans to be healthy and to reach a point of our health and a point of our relationship with food that it doesn't take a toll on our mental and emotional health. And it actually gives us energy. I bet that you won't eat that pizza every night. You won't reach for that same food experience again and again and again because it wouldn't be satisfying anymore, right? Right.
Yeah. Saturday we were like, okay, that was perfect, but now we want this, or that was it. That was good.
That was good. Yeah. Moving on.
Right.
What sounds good now?
Yep.
And we learn like with intuitive eating, it's like, yeah, sometimes the pizza, it's sometimes the salad. And research shows through intuitive eating that after we trust ourselves with food, it's not the fun foods all the time. The fun foods or the play foods or the junk foods, whatever you call them right now. It's not those foods all the time. It's those foods sometimes, but most of the time, through following our intuition, we find ourselves eating more, I struggle with words like healthy or nutritious, but I'm going to say them because it's like foods that give us more nutrients and more energy than foods that deplete our energy. Because when we attune to the body and we listen to the body, it will naturally, and it does this every time. It's a beautiful thing. We naturally find ourselves in that bucket more, where it's like, you know what? I love this meal of, chicken and noodles, but wouldn't it be better if I had something green on the plate? Wouldn't it be better if we had some more variety in this? What is it missing? I often have clients say to me, Trevor, they're like, Alicia, can I have the vegetable, or is that me dieting again? There's sometimes like this reverse of like, okay, now I'm distrusting of the vegetables because that was that person for a long time,
Yeah.
And it's this weird phenomenon of like wanting the vegetable, but not because the diet said you did.
Okay.
And that's when, as a practitioner, I'm like, what an interesting observation. You're finding yourself wanting vegetables when you can have whatever you want. Yeah. Very interesting. It happens every time. And without me saying, eat this, not that. It's their own path.
That's awesome. And I think that's my biggest interest and draw to intuitive eating is it allows you permission with saying it's okay. And the biggest thing, like you said, you realize that once you stop saying you can't have this or that food, you realize, well, I don't really even care to have it. It was more just the neglect or the words, the verbiage that you were using towards that food. And I think this whole intuitive eating is almost restructuring, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically just restructuring your entire relationship around the food and giving yourself permission to have what you want, and then actually realizing, well, you're just going to listen to your body, because your body is going to tell you exactly what it wants when it wants it. And as long as you don't have that disconnect between can't have or I have to follow this diet or that diet, it's just the permission, you're going to notice big differences, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. That's
Awesome.
Exactly correct.
Awesome.
You totally understand it. It's a hard concept to understand. It's really, this is unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Usually, it's like when we're talking about health and food, it's like we should be talking about eating the fruits and vegetables, not eating the fast food. And here I am saying the fast food is okay, the fruits and vegetables are okay, everything is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is truly okay, regardless of your body size. There's no punishing people in larger bodies in intuitive eating. It's a health at every size approach. Again, totally unconventional. People are thinking if I live in a larger body, I must have to restrict my weight. People think, oh, intuitive eating, that's only for the thin people. Only thin people can eat intuitively. No, it's incorrect. It's for everybody at every size. It's about respecting bodies at every size. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it, is that, you know, we really disconnect ourselves from the diet culture type of paradigm where it's like only the ideal type of body is able to do this work. And until everyone in larger bodies can get into the smaller body, then we can be intuitive. No, it's actually like when we honor and respect our bodies right now with food, we get the energy and the life that we're wanting. And oftentimes our relentless pursuit of weight loss drives us further and further from that confidence, from that increased self-esteem, from the increased health, again, like not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, that we're all looking for.
Yeah, spot on. That's, everybody should want to just feel good with the life they have. And unfortunately, again, going back to words play a huge role. And I mean, we've talked before, but I mean, just being a young child, what your parents might say, or having a coach tell you, you know, the only way you're going to be able to work out better is if you lose this weight. And they don't realize it at the time, but those words stick, and then they draw this huge disconnect. And I think that's not ideal at all.
We form these really strong beliefs that we hold with us the rest of our life. And that continually impact our relationship with food and our relationship with our bodies, oftentimes negatively. And I often say this work isn't just for our generation, Trevor. Like, this is for the next generation too. Like, how can we really celebrate and respect our bodies with food and with movement, not just in how we view our food ourselves and view our bodies ourselves, but the kind of role and example that we're playing for the next generation. I have a daughter, she's 10 months old, you know, and I think about how my journey was really having a poor relationship with food and really struggling, and how I fed myself and how I treated myself. And I think about her and I think, you know what, I want to create an environment for her where she feels nurtured with food her entire life, where she doesn't hate her body, you know, where she can love and appreciate, respect, and honor her body, all the things that we're saying, you know. And oftentimes diet culture comes in and says, your body's not enough. You got to eat this way. You got to move this way. And then we fill our arsenal of beliefs with a bunch of shoulds. I should eat this. I shouldn't do that. I should move this way. I shouldn't move that way, in order to get to this ideal. But I think it's our job and our generation's job, and that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing right now, is that if we unravel that and we get to the truths of all of that, we can better nurture the next generation so they can preserve their intuitive eater, which they were born with. We were all born intuitive eaters. She doesn't need to tell me when she's full. She tells me by just like, the spoon is not going in her mouth. I mean, it's not, right? she's on to the next thing. And she will wail if she's hungry, right? I don't love to get to that point of wailing. Right. You'll let me know? So it's like we were born intuitive eaters. How can we reconnect with that ourselves so that we can help the next generation preserve their own inner intuitive eater too? That is like, I wake up and I'm just on fire for the purpose of that work.
That's awesome. That is perfect. It's perfect. I've got nothing else to add. That's just perfect.
I know that you like really hear me in this, and it's such a gift to like feel really heard in this as well, and to be able to share it with you.
For sure. That was great. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we get into the few final questions?
Big thing I want to add. Thank you for asking that, by the way. I know that we talk about like, so much being in this intuitive eating paradigm. Sometimes I can come off as a bit disconnected from all of the beliefs that we have tied to weight loss. And I want to really stress how much I empathize and understand and relate to desires to lose weight. I feel that so immensely. I would say that even those who have a quote unquote healed relationship with food struggle with desiring weight loss at times. Of course we desire weight loss. Of course we go on diets to help us lose weight. Of course we exercise in a way that helps us lose weight. We are told in our society and how we live, and how you said, Trevor, by like how we were brought up with how we should eat and how we should look, that if we lose weight, we will be given a happier and healthier life. And so when I talk about intuitive eating, I don't want to talk about this paradigm of intuitive eating without fully recognizing how much our beliefs are tied to a better life that's associated with weight loss. I get it. I get why we're weighing ourselves every day. I get why we're manipulating food, and I understand why we're manipulating exercise to lose weight. We're told that that'll help us be healthier, more attractive, that we'll be more loved. Those are the things that we all want, right? The weight loss is what will help us get these deeper things we want, like connection, like belonging, acceptance. Like those are the things that we're really hoping that we'll get from losing weight. And that's why we constantly try to do it, right? We're beating ourselves up trying to lose weight because we care about those things so much. We all want to be accepted. We all want to belong. And that diet culture message of belonging is so strong that we all have it. All of the clients that I have, all the conversations that I have with friends, we all struggle with this idea. And that idea is diet culture. That thinness is health, that thinness is happiness. But what I challenge you to do today is to offer that part of yourself that is constantly desiring weight loss a little bit of compassion. Offer it a little bit of relief to say, actually, where you are is exactly maybe where you need to be right now in the body that you're currently in. Maybe from going from the resistance of desiring weight loss to the acceptance of the present moment, that we will be able to find the opportunity in what's ahead of honoring our body next. We have to flow from resistance to acceptance to opportunities before we're then able to act and able to nurture and respect ourselves. But it really is going to take from going from the weight loss paradigm to the intuitive eating paradigm. We have to offer ourselves enough compassion to understand where we are right now is okay, and that we can move forward from here.
Wow. I'm speechless. Well, that was amazing. That was amazing. Thank you for that. That was amazing. Okay, I know you've got something else going on, so quick, I'll ask you these few questions, okay? So first, what is your favorite health-related book?
Intuitive Eating. Chloe and Elise Resch. I have to say,
yeah,
it's second to the Bible. I don't know. It's second to the Bible. Intuitive Eating. It's called Intuitive Eating, a revolutionary program that works. Full disclosure, they just came out with a recent addition to this book, and I haven't read it yet. So I am going to recommend the prior addition to the book. It's like a pink and white cover. I usually always have it. Oh, but we don't do the video anyway.
Yeah.
Pink and white, Intuitive Eating, a revolutionary program that works. I haven't read the new edition. I'm not sure how I feel about how I've heard about the new edition, but I love these two dietitians, and I think that this book, again, second to the Bible, it's a great read for someone who's looking to gain an intellectual understanding of intuitive eating. I don't think it's possible for many of us to pick up the book and become intuitive eaters.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's possible for us to gain an understanding of what intuitive eating is, but to go from understanding to embodiment of the practices and to living this out in our life, I really recommend getting support from a non-diet, health at every size, intuitive eating practitioner.
Perfect. Second, what healthy activity do you like to do in Green Bay? Ooh.
I told you I had a 10-month-old, right?
Yep.
Oh my, she takes my energy.
Yeah.
I am like up and down and all around. But do you know what I really love to do, like in the summertime? Is I love to go out to UWGB. That's my alma mater.
Okay.
They have an excellent nutrition program at UWGB. And I go out there to my old stomping grounds, and in the Arboretum there. Have you ever been to the Arboretum at GB?
No, I haven't.
Oh, beautiful.
We'll check it out.
Trail. I went paved a gravel trail most of the way. And it's so nice. You're like in nature, but really close to the city. So I go out to GB, and I go with my husband, and we'll go with my daughter for the first time this year.
Nice.
And we'll go out on the trail and be in nature and take just walks. I love long, really nice walks. Turn the phones off and just have good conversation and silence too, and just enjoy being in nature. Yeah, I think I love this area. I love our community. And I'm really looking forward to getting outside and hitting those trails.
For sure. They're the best. We took the dogs out to a trail on Saturday when we had that huge heat wave. It was like 57. So same thing. It's turning the phones off and walking in nature. There's nothing that beats it. There's really not. And I mean, health wise, I mean, I can talk about that. It's great. And it's just a nice thing to kind of unwind from the chaos around us all.
Yeah. Fresh air. I think it's greater medicine than,
Completely.
healthy food a lot of the time. Getting outside, getting in fresh air. I so believe that.
For sure.
The dogs running around. That's so fun.
And then the last question I got for you is, what is one, you've given a lot, but I'm gonna ask this. What's one piece of advice that you would give people to take back control of their health, which in turn giving them back control of their life?
I'm going to go back to that message of compassion, Trevor, because I cannot emphasize it enough. I think there's so many fear-mongering, health-promoting messages out there. I think health seems unachievable and scary and forced. There's such like this forced, rigid approach to health right now out there. And a lot of us feel completely stuck in our health journey. And we feel like health, again, is super hard and unachievable. So a lot of people are like, heck with it. I don't care anyway. I'm going to just disconnect with myself in a way that like, I'm just going to stop caring. Okay, instead of stopping to care about our health and instead of trying to be super rigid with our health, what if we offered ourselves the compassion that we need to work with our bodies rather than against our bodies? What if we attune to our bodies in a way that promotes our health rather than forces us to disconnect with our bodies and engage in practices that aren't sustainable or health promoting anyway? And so first step, have self-compassion for where you're at right now, where you're at in your health journey, where you're at with your relationship with food, where you're at with your relationship with your body. That self-compassion might just be enough for you to treat your body with a bit more love and compassion and respect today.
Awesome. Beautiful message. I love it. So where can people reach you? Social media channels, website, I know Instagram, you have your own podcast show. Where can they see you?
I'm loving to be on social media. And so you can find me on Instagram at aliciabrown.rdn. I offer a 3-month intuitive eating intensive for anybody that wants to just like get a head start on this work. Like if they just want to jump in and get started with intuitive eating and say, okay, I'm done with dieting. I get it, Alicia. I get your message, but I don't know the first place to start after not wanting to diet. It's like we want to be healthy, but we don't want to diet. If you're in that place right now, if you've got like one foot in each place, not wanting to diet, but not knowing where to go, it's time for you to come over into intuitive eating. And you can apply on my website, www.nutritionwithalicia.com. There's a work with me tab. Fill out that application. I'll get back to you in 24 hours. And that 3-month intuitive eating intensive, it is a great place to start. Again, if you're like hating dieting, but not knowing where to go. So those are 2 places that I would recommend. And I also have my own podcast. Yes, if you're curious about like learning more about intuitive eating, we talk about food and body stuff. I call it all the worries, anxieties, and frustrations that surround our relationships with food and our body. You can find me at the kitchen table with Alicia Brown, RDN. Would you be interested in coming to the kitchen table sometime?
Me?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
100%.
I mean, this has been so fun, and thanks for being, thanks for allowing me to share this work. Again, this is like what gives me joy. It drives my passion, and thank you for seeing me in this work as another health promoting guru. Oh,
absolutely. I love it. I'm a big fan of it. And thank you again, Alicia, for coming on to this. This was very insightful, and I just appreciate your time.
Yes.
All right, guys. Until next time, have a great week. If you would like more information about one of our guests or us at Movement Performance and Rehabilitation, just send us an email at info@mvmt-rehab.com. That's info@movement-rehab.com.